What's up, everyone? I'm Joe Pomp, and this is the Joe Pomp Show. Today, we're going to be talking about the Oakland A's. So most of you have probably seen by now that they're officially moving to Las Vegas. The team signed a binding agreement last week to purchase 49 acres of land right off the Las Vegas Strip. They're paying $225 million for the land. And fun fact, they're buying the land from Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, who are the former owners of the UFC with Dana White. This is a good piece of land. It's located 1 mile north of Allegiant Stadium, where the Raiders play, and 1 mile west of T-Mobile Arena, where the Vegas Golden Knights, the NHL team, play. It's in walking distance from the city. It's right off the highway, but they're going to build some walkways, and you're going to be able to take public transportation potentially to the city. It's going to cost about $1.5 billion in total, with $500 million of that coming through public funding. It's going to have 30 to 35,000 seats, a retractable roof, and they're even talking with the Boring Company, Elon Musk's business, about building an underground stop on their tunnel outside of the stadium. So it's a big deal, but this is only scratching the surface when it comes to what's going on in Oakland. The real story involves secret backdoor business deals. It involves destroying a team and a franchise. It involves taxpayer money and so forth. So let's get into it. The easiest place to start is with what could have been in Oakland. So everyone's probably familiar with the Golden State Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are a first-class organization. There are few professional sports teams that are run better than the Warriors over the last 10 years. They recently opened a brand new $1.4 billion arena. Obviously, they've won 4 NBA championships in the last 8 years, and the team's valuation has increased over 1,500%, from $450 million to $7.5 billion since Joe Lacob and Peter Gruber purchased the franchise in 2010. The Golden State Warriors are actually the most valuable team in the NBA today. It's not the Lakers, it's not the Knicks, it's not the Bulls, it's not the Celtics. They basically took an undervalued asset, expanded it up. Obviously, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, Bob Myers, all the key players help a lot when it comes to the valuation. Championships help, postseason income helps. But the operational expertise that is involved at the Golden State Warriors from a management level is insane. It's one of the best in sports. Everyone knows this. And the reason I mention this is for one specific point. Joe Lacob was supposed to buy the Oakland A's. When the team went up for sale in 2005, he had an agreement to buy the team. He was the highest bidder, and he thought the deal was, and I quote, done. That's what he said. But Bud Selig, who was MLB commissioner at the time, said no, 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 no. And he awarded the team to Lou Wolf and John Fisher. Now, this is interesting because Lou Wolf was a college fraternity brother of Bud Selig. He didn't even have the highest bid at the time. There was other groups that were also willing to bid more than he was, but they knew each other, and Bud Selig handpicked him as the next owner of the Oakland A's. The story essentially goes that he thought that Bud Selig knew that he was willing to do whatever the other owners wanted, and he wasn't going to cause any problems. So he got him the team as a buddy-buddy favor, and things have gone downhill, to say the least. So if you look at just what the A's have done on the field, it's true. They've made the playoffs 7 of the last 18 years, 38% of the time. They have a great winning percentage over the last 20 years. They're about even when it comes to the total league, but over the last 15, 20, 25 years, they've been pretty decent. Everyone's seen the movie Moneyball. They've done decent on the field, but their opening day payroll last year was $32 million, which was 42% lower than their payroll in 2005 when John Fisher and Lou Wolf acquired the team. So I just want to make sure you heard that correctly. The A's opening day payroll last year was 42% lower than their payroll in 2005. So 17 years later, their payroll was lower. And the reason why that's important is because the average payroll in Major League Baseball increased 88% during that time period, from $72 million to $135 million. So while revenue is increasing, obviously national revenue people are sharing throughout the league, every other team in the league is increasing their salary cap, spending more money than ever. And they are not. They're doing the opposite. The team has also just let this lack of investment ruin their on-field product. If you look at the players that they've let go, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, Sean Murphy, plenty of other people have left in trades or free agency. And here's a crazy stat. The New York Mets 2022 luxury tax bill, so the money that they went over the salary cap on, is $111 million. That's what they have to pay in excess, which is 3 times more than the Oakland A's 2023 payroll in total. Their entire payroll, $43 million. The Mets are almost paying 3 times more than that in luxury tax payments alone. In fact, half the luxury tax money goes to other teams. So half of it goes to MLB programs and MLPA programs, and the other half goes to MLB teams. And that means the Mets are paying roughly $53, $54 million, $55 million to other MLB teams this year, which is more than the Oakland Athletics are spending themselves. It's been a disaster on the field, and the craziest part is that it's even been worse from a business perspective. Oakland Stadium, the Coliseum, is probably the worst in baseball. Tampa's got an argument to be made there too, but the Coliseum is awful. It's 60 years old, which puts it up there with Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, whatever. But those places have been renovated. They have history. They have character. Oakland is the exact opposite. The lights have gone out during games. Players frequently complain about the playing conditions. There was a possum in the press box. Floods have happened in the dugouts and the umpires' rooms where sewage was leaked in. It's been a disaster. So when you combine their lack of ability to invest in the team, they just trade everyone away, they're not willing to spend money, and the stadium falling apart, fans have given up. They've just given up. If you look at attendance, the A's ranked dead last year in attendance, with an average of 9,849 fans per home game. That was the lowest full season average since 1979, and their own AAA affiliate in Las Vegas frequently outdrew them. There was a day last year, I believe, that 9 out of the 13 AAA teams that had home games outdrew the A's. The A's were getting like 3,000 to 4,000 at the end of the season. It was a disaster. And when you look at attendance in other teams, big market teams, it's even worse. The LA Dodgers averaged almost 48,000 fans last year. St. Louis was at 41,000. New York was at 40,000. Atlanta was 38. And Oakland was under 10. So these teams are averaging 4 times more than them at the top of the market. The average of all the other teams was significantly higher than them too. And what's the result? Major League Baseball has been asking the Athletics, the A's, to try to find a new stadium since the late 2000s. For like 12, 13, 14 years now, they've been trying to find a new stadium. They've explored a bunch of options. They looked at San Jose, Fremont, and most recently a $12 billion waterfront project called Howard Terminal in Oakland. They were trying to stay in Oakland and working with the government to do this. But for one reason or another, things never progressed. Now, I want to be careful because it takes 2 people to tango. The government obviously has to be willing to give them some stuff, and they have to be willing to do some concessions as well. But this really wasn't Oakland's fault, no matter who or what they claim. The A's are saying that Oakland didn't participate. MLB is saying the same thing, but that's simply not true. If you look at what happened and the reporting and the facts that we know about this, Oakland made a bunch of concessions. They were literally fighting lawsuits of shipping container companies that were suing the city for trying to mess up the port at Howard Terminal. They were filing lawsuits and defending the lawsuits, against these shipping companies. They also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in grants for infrastructure projects involved in the real estate, residential and commercial around Howard Terminal. So they were committing big dollars and willing to give tons of concessions day after day to this project. But many people believe the A's were never actually serious about staying in Oakland, and they simply used that as leverage against Las Vegas to get what they wanted. Here's a direct quote from the governor or the mayor of Oakland. At every opportunity, the A's have made increasing demands on Oakland, and at every opportunity, we have risen to the challenge and overcome the hurdles placed before us. Instead of working with us, they have announced a land deal in another city. And I want to be very clear. This announcement happened mid-negotiations, and it shows they had no interest in making a deal with Oakland at all. So essentially what happened was the day before this announcement went public, or the night before, the night of, Oakland's mayor got a phone call at 6 p.m. from Dave Cavall, who is essentially the mouthpiece. He's the president for the Oakland A's, that said, we have a deal with Las Vegas. Sorry, see you later. Hung up the phone. The deal got announced. They got blindsided. They thought this deal was moving ahead. The outgoing mayor actually said, I left the bases loaded. This thing is ready to go. But it didn't happen. So the A's are turning their full attention to Las Vegas now. The construction of the stadium is expected to start next year. It's going to open in 2027 at the earliest. So the A's, their lease runs out at the Oakland Coliseum at the end of 2024. So they may get evicted. They may get kicked out. They may not have a place to play. So they have already mentioned that they have a deal in place with their AAA team in Las Vegas to share the stadium. Now, this is a problem. One, because they have a very small stadium, obviously. Only 10,000 people fit in this stadium. It's not a problem if you're averaging 9,000 fans. But the hope is that they're going to be able to draw more people if you're in Las Vegas versus Oakland, where the people have given up. That is a problem because Oakland currently has the biggest stadium at 56,782 people capacity. This ballpark in Las Vegas is 10,000. Now, the numbers have been terrible, but Las Vegas is a good sports city. It's underrated for sure. They had no professional sports teams, 5, 6, 7 years ago outside of the WNBA and some other smaller teams. Now, they have gotten the Raiders and they've gotten the Vegas Knights. And these teams can pull fans in. The Golden Knights, for example, their capacity is at 103% last year. That means they literally sold more tickets than they have seats in the stadium. They're able to do that because they have standing room only tickets and they have suites where they pack more people into. So those games are selling out every single game. Playoffs, good, bad, whatever, they're selling out. The Raiders were also very good too. I think they had 97% occupancy last year, which is amazing for a new team in a new market. Las Vegas obviously loves them, and people are expecting similar stuff for the Athletics. We'll see what happens. Obviously, if you don't invest in the team, nothing's going to improve. So we have this map here where you can actually see the outlay of the stadium. So the red plot that you're looking at right there is where they purchased that basically 40 acres of land. And there's an additional piece of property in the orange next to it that they also have the opportunity to purchase on top of that. As you can see, it's a mile north of Allegiant and essentially a mile west of T-Mobile. That's a highway right there, so you can't just walk across it, but they're supposedly going to try to figure out a way to build an overpass or whatever it is so you can access it from the Strip and people can walk over. It's going to have a partially retractable roof. The Athletics said that when they did a poll and they started lobbying in Las Vegas to look at new stadium options and potentially bringing a team there, the number one complaint from fans was that they needed a roof. The current stadium in Las Vegas does not have a roof. It gets super, super, super hot on 100-degree days in Las Vegas, and they want to watch the game inside. Same thing with Miami, Tampa, everywhere else. So they are going to build a partially retractable roof. And look, this isn't a done deal, but my general takeaway from a lot of this stuff from an opinion perspective is it's kind of bullshit if you really think about it. Do the Athletics really deserve to be the team that goes to Las Vegas? I just told you how great Las Vegas is as a market. They're obviously the sports betting capital of the world from an in-person perspective. Hundreds of thousands of millions of people go there every week, month, and year to visit the place. They're going to get tons, millions of fans to visit these stadiums every single year, tourists, locals, whatever it is. And I don't really think the A's deserved it. If you look at what has happened over the last 2 decades from an ownership perspective, Fisher has done everything he can with the help of Dave Cavall to ruin this team. He has been nowhere to be found, John Fisher. He literally doesn't even show up to a lot of games. He didn't even show up to the press conference where they announced the team being bought. Literally. Wolf showed up to the press conference and did it with Bud Selig. Fisher wasn't anywhere to be found. He often sits in the stands in games, sometimes wearing a camouflage hat. People don't even know who he is. They don't even know what he looks like. He's never in public. The media never talks to him. The employees at the organization don't even know who he is, what he's doing, etc. It's been a disaster there for over a decade. Obviously, this was his plan all along. He had no intention of building a contender. At every stop, he actually destructed the team, traded away good players, and those players are now performing elsewhere. He's been non-existent over the last 15 years. I don't think he deserves this, but it's happening anyways. It's hard to imagine that attitude will ever change, but if there is one place that can potentially change this franchise, get him to potentially spend a little bit more money, increase the fans that are attending these games, and make it more of a legitimate baseball team, it is Las Vegas. We'll see what happens. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. You can also listen to the full podcast on the Joe Pomp Show. Just search for it wherever you can on Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever. And lastly, the newsletter full breakdown where you can read all about this deal is on readhuddleup.com. It's my 3 times weekly newsletter that breaks down the business and money behind sports. Sign up for it. There's over 105,000 people that are currently receiving it in their inbox today. Make sure you're one of them when it goes out next on Wednesday. Thank you so much, and we will talk later this week.